remember sitting in a review with my manager. She said, what is it that you want to do? And I remember really clearly saying, I want to make a difference. 2 years into the business and we just weren't making ends meet. And you said to me, what are you doing with this business? It's not working. I felt like a huge failure. I was like, I've really fucked up. I was crying and Dad's like, what are you doing? It's like, something needs to change. I said, yeah, but I've got so many staff, I feel really bad, because I was more worried about everybody else losing their job than me and my health and my family. I did a TV show, came back from that depressed, had a miscarriage.
I need to tell you, there is a lot of extremely wealthy entrepreneurs out there that have had many failed businesses.
I'm always thinking, if I was the most annoying customer that I could have, what would the objection be? So I would not hire family and friends if you're starting a new business purely because it's convenient. Helping women connect and have something to do and feel seen. I then sourced really affordable garments that I could retail. And so we were able to not only operate, but I grew the business 300% over those 2-3 years. When I first did start, my core goal, and it still is, and I'm not sure if I'll ever achieve this, I'd love to, it's my big, hairy, audacious goal, is that I wanted to go into girls' schools at 13 to 15, which is where we believe, and we now know for a fact, that our inner negative self-talk
What's up, guys? My name is Scott Giannuzzi. Today is a very, very, very exciting day because it is my very, very first podcast called the Scottie G Show. I have some friends that asked me, why the fuck are you doing a podcast? And I said, I have no idea. But there is some intentions around it and there is a goal that I want to achieve. And that is to interview some beautiful, happy, entrepreneurial, motivating people that we can build a little bit of a community and motivate people to get the most out of their life, whatever it may be, whether it be business, whether it be health, financial, family, whatever it may be. My intention is to bring on some really, really cool guests, talk about some really cool shit, just keep it real, really relaxed, have some fun with it, and see what comes about it. And speaking of really, really cool guests, I have brought in the one and only Melina Bagnato from Style Me Over. Melina?
Hello. So I was just giggling. I was wondering if you're going to add the Giannuzzi on the end.
Why would I do that? Okay, so full transparency. My first guest not only is a successful entrepreneur, a beautiful mother of 3 beautiful boys, who's going to give us some insights into her life and into her business, but she's also my wife. So I thought, who else can I bring on to do our very first Scottie G Show pod, where we'll probably fuck it up. So I thought best to bring Melina in. So if we fuck it up, we fuck it up together.
Exactly.
Like we have done on our whole journey of life and marriage and parenthood. But we only learn from our mistakes. And if you don't give things a crack, you will never know. So here I am doing my very, very first podcast with the one and only Melina from Style Me Over. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Someone's having a moment. I'm very proud.
Are you really? Yeah. Oh, thanks.
I am. You're such a nut, but look at you go.
Yeah. I'm a little bit more introverted normally. Like I'm not big on the socials. I'm not big on...
No, you don't like sharing your private, like you're quite private, but you've always been an entertainer. Your friends will know you for that.
Well, I generally let you do most of the social media stuff because obviously that's a big part of your business, which we're going to get into with our chat. But no, I generally, people come up to me in the street and say, "Hey, how was your weekend? I saw you went here, here, and here." And I'm like, "How the fuck do you know where I was?" And then obviously I have to remind myself that, yes, you've posted my life online.
Only 3 minutes a day. Could you imagine if it was everything?
No, we don't want people to see everything. So let's start off. Tell us a little bit before we talk about your business.
Mhm.
Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So as you said, I am a proud mother of 3 boys, your boys. So I am the only woman in the house, which can be quite challenging. I feel like I've become more masculine as I've become surrounded by more boys. I am a proud business owner. I've had Style Me Over for 16 years this year. And it started off as a clothing business. The why has never changed, but we are now pivoting into different areas. So I'm now a style and confidence coach with a very, very rich background in retail and fashion. Um, and yeah, just really juggling, as you said, all the shit that gets thrown at us. We've got 3 boys that are neurodiverse, ADHD in different ways. I myself am, and I don't know how the fuck you handle that, to be honest. But yeah, I'm very passionate about helping women feel good from the inside out.
So tell us from the beginning. Why did you start Style Me Over? What were you doing before?
So I worked like many people trying to find their groove. I worked around at some fashion designers. I was a fashion designer and worked my way up. I was a buyer for Cotton On for a little while. I was the first to roll out accessories in Cotton On. That was when they only had 30 stores in Geelong. And I had to drive to Geelong every day. And I remember working at all these different businesses and women. By the time I was in my mid-20s, I was working for a uniforms company called Neat and Trim. And I'd have people come up to me and ask, "Have you seen where I can get a little clutch from? Or have you seen where I can get this?" And start to notice a lot of people asking me for fashion advice. And whilst I love fashion and I've always taken pride in putting myself together, I never really saw or thought that that could be a potential job. At the time, Trini and Susanna, which were huge in the UK, they're stylists. They were funny, they were crass, and they made dressing real women fun. That really interested me. And so I registered the business name Style Me Over when I was still working at a uniforms company. That is 19 years ago. And my goal at the start was to help women find styles that suited them, but also understand their body shape. And when I did, I think you'll remember this, not fondly, but when I was working I then went to Buzz Products, which was my most favorite job ever that I worked at because the work culture was a sensational, and I was the fashion account manager. I never forget sitting in, when I say you don't remember this fondly, I'm coming to it. I remember sitting in in a review with my manager, and I loved my fashion job there, heading up all the free gifts with purchase that you'd get with the magazines. And she said, "What is it you want to do here? Because we need to close down that department because magazines are starting to wind down. We're going to put you in the FMCG department, dealing with like the likes of beer and Bundaberg and all those, brands which weren't my thing." She said, "What is it that you want to do?" And I remember really clearly saying, "I want to make a difference." And she looked to me and she says, "That's not going to happen here." And I remember I came home to you and I said, "I want to start my own business. It's time." I probably didn't do it the right way. And when I say you don't remember it fondly, is that I quit my day job. And then the next day designed my logo, which was not the best thing to do.
No, but it's good that you bring it up though, because there'll be a lot of people listening to this who are stuck in their job,
Mm.
not enjoying what they're doing. They're not doing exactly what they want to do. They have an entrepreneurial inkling, or they know what their business is going to be, but they just don't know how to do it.
They've got that drive.
And there is many, many obviously different ways to start that business. Everybody goes on their own journey because startup capital is a big issue. So people want to start their business, but don't necessarily have the funds to do so. Time restraints, commitment to a current employer, family restraints, kids. How would I make it?
Excuses in general.
So sometimes, you just said that, you don't think you did it the right way. Sometimes you just have to dive in.
Of course. Absolutely. But I suppose what I'm referring to more so when I say fondly is that I remember sitting at a dinner table in our current house. I was now pregnant with Geordie. So I'm now 2 years into the business and we just weren't making ends meet. And you said to me, what are you doing with this business? Because it's not working. And like many business entrepreneurs at start, I've pivoted so many different ways. And at that stage, when I first did start, my core goal, and it still is, and I'm not sure if I'll ever achieve this, I'd love to, it's my big, hairy, audacious goal, is that I wanted to go into girls' schools and talk to young girls at 13 to 15, which is where we believe, and we now know for a fact, that our inner negative self-talk really kicks in. And I know with my own experience and my own transformation from a girl to an unattractive teenager and the stories that I told myself, I wanted to get in there. And I went around to girls' colleges, but there was no budget for it. No one was going to pay me. They were like, yeah, we need this, but no one had the money. Okay. 16 years later, we're now at a point in the world where mental health is a huge, huge issue, not just across a certain gender, but particularly with teens. So I've probably got more of a chance of doing that now, and I'm still hungry to do that. But that is one of the reasons why that wasn't bringing in money.
Hmm.
And I remember at that point when you asked me that at the dinner table, I felt like a huge failure. I was like, I've really fucked up. Like I was on a good wicket. We could have been in a different situation. Maybe I shouldn't. I should throw in the towel. And I remember I was pregnant with Jordan at this stage, our eldest, who's 14 next month. And I went and got a job. Do you remember I went and got a job 2 days a week, part-time at Mimco head office. And I ran the returns department.
So just to make ends meet, to ensure that we could fulfill obligations, earn some money part-time while continuing to run your business.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you have to ask yourself those tough questions, right? What am I doing? It's been 2 years now, but not letting it get to you to the point that throwing your towel in. You say to yourself, what's going on? Why am I not seeing the growth that I should be seeing? And let's remember, business is not always about money, but let's be honest. Most people start a business because they want flexibility.
Exactly.
And they need money to have that flexibility.
And if you're not making money in your business, there's no point having the business.
Correct.
And I think that's why I thought, well, I suppose I've been lucky with you all. You are such a straight shooter. Like sometimes it probably you give me more of a Scottie bitch slap. Got to pick myself up sometimes, but I appreciate
That's metaphorically speaking, by
yes,
the way.
metaphoric.
There's no slapping going on.
Verb. My mind went so many places.
Hey, I said we were going to keep it real, just too real, okay?
Yes, and I think what's important to just add to what you're saying there is that at all points of my journey, and as you have gone on your own journey, and every entrepreneur, you need to ask, why are you doing what you're doing? And I've had those moments, those I've failed moments and self-doubt so many times in my journey. But now I understand it was because I just hadn't found the right jigsaw puzzle piece to finish the picture.
Well, I need to tell you, there is a lot of extremely wealthy entrepreneurs out there that have had many failed businesses.
Absolutely.
And that's really important for people listening to this, because what some people will think is, I tried a startup, it didn't work, business is not for me. Now, that may well be the case. For some people, maybe working for an employer and having the flexibility of time and without the pressures is what they want in their life. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
But for those that want to run their own business and have that entrepreneurial side to life and putting in the effort, and we've all seen that iceberg picture,
absolutely.
where people see the success at the top.
They don't see what they've done to get
all
there.
the long hours, the sleepless nights, the financial pressure,
Mhm.
the borrowing money off people that they didn't want to borrow money off,
Tears.
all of the things that come with running a business. So before we talk about
Yes.
where Style Me Over is now and where Style Me Over is going in the future, let's give our listeners a little bit of insight here. So
Look at you go.
you started a business while you were pregnant with your first.
Correct.
Okay, so you've registered the business name.
I fluffed around for a little while.
Yep.
I did some styling one-on-ones. No one really wanted to pay me. I did some fashion styling. I was $30 an hour then because I didn't believe I was good enough. I didn't have enough experience.
Yep.
So yeah, 2 years I just kept pivoting. I did style parties. Remember I did the party, go to ladies' houses and I would teach them about different body shapes. I did some wardrobe detoxing. I was just literally just seeing what works,
Seeing what sticks.
what sticks.
Throwing it
Don't
out
try it
there
all.
and seeing what sticks. So did you start buying and selling stock?
No, not at that point.
No?
No.
So what happened next?
So then I had Geordie and I had the year off, and I'm really glad I was able to do that. And it wasn't until really, and this is the interesting part that a lot of people don't see the below the iceberg with my business and my followers. They'll say, "Oh, you're so lucky," or "How do you do it all?" It's like I've been to hell and back, but never gave up. And this is where it all turned for us, or for me and us, is that I did a TV show and came back from that depressed. I was I had a miscarriage. Went and did this show, which you're amazing and supported me. You've always been like, and I have to say, having a partner, not because I'm blowing wind up your ass, but I think that's really important in this day and age as a woman wanting to start a business, that their partners need to be on board. They may not agree, like you've never agreed with everything, but they need to at least know that no matter what, the hubby's got their back.
Well, you're a partner in the business no matter what, right? Even if you're not a partner in the business, you're a partner in the business.
Correct. So I went and did this TV show thinking that this was going to be what I'd leverage off for my business, which I still wasn't clear on what it was yet. Like I was styling, but no one was paying me enough to do that one-on-one. And I didn't have a community to market to. And so I did the TV show, came back, was depressed, and we fell pregnant with Harvey, which was a beautiful blessing, but I was not mentally ready for it. And I remember so distinctly saying to you, I need some time by myself because I just wasn't coping. And I went and stayed a night away by myself and I journaled because I'm a big journaler, big on manifesting. And I remember writing, how am I going to get through this? What do I do? Because I can't walk around heavily pregnant, mother of two, and do this one-on-one styling. Like, give me a sign. And I remember just writing in my journal, and I always wanted to own my own fashion store, always did, but I never wanted to have a boutique. So I literally went into Collingwood, which is where all the suppliers are. I made a contact with a supplier. I asked if I could just buy 2 styles. I had finished the TV show. Back then, they didn't see the benefit of social media, so I had to close my socials down. I had 200 people on my socials, so literally nothing. And it was at a time where online shopping was not a thing. So Domino was actually one of the first.
What are we talking here? 2015?
No, this is 2010. It's 14 years ago.
2010. Okay. Yep.
No, sorry. Where are we? Yes, 2000 no, sorry, I'm not doing my maths properly. 2012.
2012.
Yeah, we both were
Yeah, which was a completely different landscape to what we're seeing in the business world today.
Completely.
In terms of socials, e-commerce, everything was completely different.
It's a thing now, right? There's platforms. When I started, I literally had 200 ladies on a Facebook page, and I took a photo. I was pregnant, and I said, "Hi, ladies."
Sure, it wasn't like a MySpace account. You're going to show your age now?
No, I was talking about that yesterday, but definitely not. Anyway, long story short, I put on a photo and said, "Ladies, I'm going to start selling some clothes." I followed my intuition. I spoke about the body shapes that would suit. I used my knowledge of styling to sell the product. And it was back when you'd have to say, if you like this style, say sold. And then I'd have to send my PayPal email address. Then I have to check my PayPal to make sure they've paid me and then send it. And I've still got the manual template I typed up to then put the sticker off the post bag on. And all of a sudden I went from selling 2 items to, do you remember we converted the spare room into an office and we had shelves and I had accessories and I had our 2-year-old at my feet and I was heavily pregnant and I gave birth to Harvey, got postnatal depression. And it was actually the thing that saved me starting my business the way it then flourished. And really what I learned was that with every breakdown is a breakthrough. And I was so fucking broken. I remember just crying. I was numb. I didn't feel, connected with the kids. And yet I had finally found that peace, that clicked in. I've been looking for it for years, and it just fucking went nuts.
Mm.
And it was my distraction. I remember picking Harvey, I'd be breastfeeding. Harvey was on the floors packing orders.
So were you pre-selling? So you didn't have to come up with the capital to start the business? Were you putting out, okay, his address or
Yep.
whatever that product was, say sold back then on
Yep.
Facebook, say sold, and then would you then buy the stock after you had the pre-sales?
Initially, I borrowed $2,000 from someone who, thank God they did, because I didn't have any money to buy some stock. And I only bought one pack, and a pack in fashion is like 7 to 8 pieces, not much. But when I realized that there was like this niche, and I was still on Facebook by this stage, there was no website yet. When I launched the website a year later, in the November of 2011, with a baby and a toddler, I remember I stayed up all night designing this website. That's when I realized that pre-order was going to work. And so I developed, and I always say working with suppliers and creating a really important relationship is crucial still now. And I've still got the same suppliers 15 years later. I would get the sample, shoot it. I'd say, how many do I need to do my own cut? That's like X amount. I'd say there's only this many, create scarcity with my followers. And we would sell out of the pre-order. So I'd make the money before the product came. And I had to hire someone pretty much within the first 6 months for 1 to 2 days a week to help pick and pack.
Always a really challenging part of running a small business. There's a cutover where it gets to the point where it's too much for one person. Then do I need staff? Always the hardest point.
That's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole nother conversation. I mean, today we're in a different world again. So now we're seeing a lot of contractors, which we probably weren't seeing as much back then. We're now seeing online digital assistants, where you can have a PA
It's a whole nother world.
in a whole other country with a much less overhead than what we're seeing back then when you had to bring somebody on. We still need the arms and legs in businesses. There's no doubt about it. But for those small businesses out there starting up, they have that challenge of they get to a point and say, I can't do this on my own anymore. And this key to any secret, the secret to any business is having the right community and people around you, whether they are staff, whether they are family, whether they are contractors working in the business, having the right pieces to the puzzle. And every business is different. We're seeing Amazon e-commerce businesses where people are running them from Bali on their laptop, and they've got arms and legs as contractors. They've got people doing their own social media. They've got other people doing, TikTok
so
shop.
many different ways. And back then, I mean, if I went back, I would definitely, and this is something I really, really want to make sure anyone that's listening that's starting a business is that I hired people because it was convenient, because they were friends or family, and they did a great job. But then as I grew bigger and I grew more experienced, it became harder to be able to say to people they're not, doing what I expected or whatnot. So I would not hire family and friends if you're starting a new business purely because it's convenient.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
Because business has difficult conversations.
It is. And you
there's
don't want
no
to have
doubt
those difficult conversations. And as you become more passionate and you're more wise in what you do, it's not saying that these people aren't good enough. Your expectations are higher, and it's really hard to put that hard word on friends and family, whereas an employee is very different. Like you just said, having outsourcing to offshore PAs is something that we've done as a business over my years, particularly with customer service and things that are more digitally based.
And we're going to see a lot more of that with AI.
Absolutely. But yeah, so that's definitely. And then obviously from there, just, I ended up opening. I had an office here in the warehouse.
Yes.
And then ladies were coming in to try on. So I was like, shit, I better make a makeshift change room. And I had Harvey underneath the desk and Jordan playing with a toy room in there. And next minute I'm like, Scottie, I want to open a boutique. And you're like, no fucking way. And you're like really tried to put me off. But I've always really believed in my why and my purpose. And I know that I'm really good at helping women feel good about themselves. And I am very authentic and I'm very raw and I'm sometimes too much for others. But that's what my audience loves about me now that I've got this huge following that I'm so grateful for and support me because they've been on this journey and I haven't been shy about showing it over the last 15 years.
My role in your business journey has always been to ask you the difficult questions that nobody else is going to ask you. And my role has always been the one to get you to think outside the square. Because if there's one thing that I can never fault you on, that is when you have your eyes on a particular goal, you go for it.
Thank you.
The only problem sometimes is you forget to look left and right and see what's going on around you.
That's the ADHD hyperfocus.
So, yeah, but ADHD is a superpower, which we're going to talk about that
Can
shortly.
be.
So you find your goal and you go for it, and you won't let anything stop you in the way.
But can I just say on that, whenever you have challenged me, and it's like a is it the word barometer? Barometer. Good one, Mel. Said that beautifully. Barometer.
We'll get Yash
Yeah,
to
can you cut
Google
that
it.
part out? No.
We'll get Yash to Google it. Yash is my producer. He's here. He's always working hard on making sure that if we fuck up, he fixes it.
Yeah, beautiful.
So
Thanks.
that's how it works. But I think we said barometer right.
But I think you're right. I usually do that. So phonetically.
And he's not cutting that out, by the way.
But also, thanks. Hey, that's what happens when you talk too fast. Barometer. Is that now I'm like, did I say it right? Is that whenever you ask me the hard questions and it really fucks me off, like in that moment, I get really annoyed with him, like, he doesn't fucking believe in me. I get this like, I'll fucking show him. And then it literally I've used that to be like a virtual like look
And
at go.
this is good to talk about because there's people listening to this podcast having these exact same conversations at the dinner table.
Yeah,
Or having a glass of wine and mum is saying, I don't want to work in this business for this company anymore. I want to do my own thing. And how those conversations go at the dinner table is how it all starts.
Absolutely.
It all starts over a glass of wine or at a restaurant.
Well, hopefully, because communication is really important when you are wanting to start a business. As a woman, particularly, I feel like we've evolved so much with equality, absolutely. But men still, if a man wants to start a business, they'll find a way, and the woman just sort of makes it work. Whereas, I'm so passionate about what I do, but also helping women find their voice to say, I've got an idea. I'm scared what everyone's going to think, and I don't give a fuck what other people think. I can feel it in my bones that I can do this, and I'm just going to try. And I think what some people do that are different, neuro blessed, is they will do all the nuts and bolts and all the business plan and all the da-da-da-da, and they do everything, but they don't even launch the business. There's no right or wrong, but
there's a balance, isn't it?
You've got to.
Like you got to be able, and that's why I said surrounding yourself with the right people. Now,
Absolutely.
I am no accountant by any stretch. It is not my forte. I can understand the basics of a profit and loss. I can understand the basics of what the expenses are in my business versus what my revenue is, and I can work out whether I need to make money or not. But the nuts and bolts of the accounting, I have no idea. Does that mean I can't be a successful businessman?
No.
Absolutely not. I'll just make
Outthought
sure
that shit.
I have the right people around me.
Yeah.
Now, do I understand all the ins and outs of the algorithms of TikTok Shop and Facebook Marketplace and Instagram and all these things? No, that's why I have Yash.
Yeah.
So I have people around me that help me plug the holes to make sure that my business runs correctly. And because it's my show, I'm going to talk about what I do for 1 second.
Oh,
So,
babe, you can tap dance if you like.
see that sign? That means I get to talk about whatever the fuck I want.
I love it.
So,
Go you.
but this is tying into what you were just saying. So, being in the hospitality equipment industry, so my business, Hospitality World Direct, which I'm going to be bringing on some really cool guests in the hospitality industry, from restaurateurs to people who require commercial catering equipment to run their businesses, charity, food establishments. Like there's going to be a whole stack of stuff that I've got people coming on board to talk about. One thing I have learned over the years is that your overheads is key. Now, I have a lot of overheads in my business, a lot of staff and a lot of infrastructure in terms of bricks and mortar.
Mhm.
So we know that rents are expensive. We know that wages are expensive. So you came in, going back to Style Me Over, you came in and used a space at
Yes.
here
Yes.
at our Fairbank Road facility, and you were running Style Me Over. So what are we talking now? Are we talking a retail shop, or are we talking ladies came to pick up clothes?
They came, so I opened up
Explain that a little bit.
I opened up Click and Collect. So I noticed, because I'm always want to be ahead. I've always been, I want to know what's next, I always think of myself as the customer. I'm a ball breaking customer. Don't laugh, because you know that don't you dare start bagging me, because I was waiting for a Scottie G smart ass comment then.
I wouldn't do that to you on my very, very first podcast, but episode 17 is how you order your coffee. Go on.
Oh my God. I saw a skit the other day about, are you friends with an off the menu orderer?
You are an off the menu
I'm
orderer.
such an off the menu orderer.
My God, it's painful. I just let you order now. I don't even want to order
Just
your
look at
order.
me and just go, I'm not even trying. So just on that, I'm always thinking, if I was the most annoying customer that I could have, what would the objection be? And so at that point, I was like, well, I don't want to pay the postage. I live around the corner. Can I collect it? So we found a way, because the website didn't offer at that point, to do Click and Collect. And so they started to come in, but then they started to want to try other things.
So you're driving traffic to stylemeover.com for people to place orders
that
through socials? So are
Yeah,
you
through
doing
socials.
you're doing
No
videos and
Facebook at that point.
just so no Instagram,
No EDMs.
so
no Instagram.
you're just doing your Facebook posts
That's
saying, hey, if you want to buy,
Yep.
click here, and then
Yeah.
that would take
That
you
was
through
it.
to
There was no
Style Me Over.
lives. There was no stories at that point. And then again, I got that hunger to say to you, okay, I'm ready. I want to open a boutique. And that's when you really tried to put me off it.
Didn't try to put you off it, tried to help you understand the costs involved.
I like how we just reword that. Yeah.
Because, like I said, I will always ask you the difficult questions, and there'll be a lot of partners out there that will do the same. And especially if you have business experience, which I did and do. So
And I appreciate that.
So I was able to ask some of those questions that you wouldn't have thought of, because
And I didn't.
you look at the fancy store and say, I want that. And like I said, you just see it and you go for it, and you forget all the steps and the costs involved to get there. So I've never ever
I
said
like the word
do it.
innovator. I'm an innovator. Okay, I'm visionary.
Yep.
Okay. No.
So you said, I no longer want to be at my husband's warehouse.
It's now,
You know,
I don't want my customers to come into industrial area, which is now cool, but back then I didn't want it.
Yeah. So
and
now you want to have your own shop.
I want my own shop.
So what
And
did you do
you
there?
said, yeah, no worries. Have you thought about this, 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 and this? And I went, no. Oh shit, staff, overhead, traffic, blah, 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 blah. Anyway,
Insurances.
all that work,
Grant.
public liability. I was like, are you talking another language?
Yep.
This is boring as batshit, but I had to look at it.
Yep.
And so and
again, if no one has that, if someone doesn't have that knowledge, it's out there. It is available. Now with YouTube, now
we
with
can ask AI, what do I need to, consider when I open up?
how do I write a business plan? Like there's so many tools out there now. Like obviously word of mouth and speaking to people and speaking to financial professionals. If you've got a good accountant, and obviously that's where you start. That's where you start. There's so many tools out there now.
We're living in a day and age. I'm actually really excited. I'm attending a social media AI conference at the end of this month. It goes for 3 days, and it's the top people in the world talking at this conference. I'm streaming because it's in San Diego, and I can't get there. So very little private joke.
Did your husband know, there you go.
And my husband said, can the business afford it? Is it worth the ROI? And can you watch it virtually?
Or do you just want a fucking holiday?
And I went,
I just want to junk it. Damn it, he caught me.
damn it. So anyway, my point is that the more I'm leaning into AI, God, any business starting now, the probably the biggest thing they've got is that it's an overcrowded room now. And it's like, well, how do I now go beyond that? We didn't have that 15 years ago as much. Now it's the tools are all there, and there's all these free YouTubes. Like I paid for masterminds for years. Brilliant at the time. You can get all of that for free now.
Yep.
So
And there is still some great courses
absolutely.
that If
Some people need that.
that delve in, but there is a lot of free information.
Absolutely. So, look, and I want to streamline this because it could be a bit boring. I don't want to go too nitty gritty this, but I have to say,
Like I said, there'll be a lot of people listening to this who want to start up their own business, and it's nice to hear stories,
humble beginning.
humble beginnings, and how people achieved what they wanted to achieve. And again, your startup is different because now we're talking the world is a different place today.
It is. But, we'll get there. Where I am with my business, I'm having to experience those teething as well with the new pivot and restructure
Yep.
in my business.
Hi guys, I hope you're enjoying the pod. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Style Me Over, where fashion meets empowerment. They believe that every woman deserves to feel confident, beautiful, and empowered from the inside out. Their mission is to help you unlock your personal style and transform your wardrobe. But they are more than just a fashion brand. Led by founder and seasoned stylist Melina Bagnato, they offer expert guidance, masterclasses, and courses to help you dress for how you want to feel. Their online boutique complements their services, providing a curated selection of stylish pieces for women of all ages through all seasons of their womanhood journey. Join their supportive community of women who are redefining style and self-expression. Visit their website or follow them on socials at @StyleMeOver to start your journey to empowered elegance today.
So look, we opened the store and it was the best thing we did. I loved it because I really not only was clear that my why was cemented in that I'm here to make a difference. And I was, and I still am, in that every woman that came in, they would feel seen. They felt like a part of a community. I spoke to them on social. They'd come in for events. They'd come in. The staff that I trained for the retail had to have the same ethos. All the years of experience that I had in retail, doing visual merchandising and training staff from Cotton On and and working at other stores, it all kicked in. It was like, fuck yes, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And it just gave me this gusto. The kids were with me. I'd take the kids to school holidays, they were with me. I'd go on live. No, there was no lives at that point. But we had this community and it grew and it was steady and the shop was very small. And it was the happiest I was in that time of my business.
Yep.
It was small, manageable, and I was across.
We're talking Oakley?
This is Oakley.
This is the
This
small
is right across the train station.
Okay.
Yeah. And then COVID kicked in.
COVID kicked in. How did you manage your business throughout COVID?
So
obviously you weren't able to trade, so you closed,
well,
but you were able to sell online.
I did. And you know me, I'm a dog with a bone. I throughout that time, just to step back a bit, I now had Ethan. So our third son, I'd fall in that time. So the store was just operating beautifully. I had my flow. I had my formula. I would, buy things. I started to design things because my background is design and I found the right suppliers to do that. And my business, my online store is still very unique to a lot out there because I try every single thing on. A lot of buyers out there will have a good eye, but they will buy off emails. A lot of suppliers send out emails and just buy without trying it on. It's more labor intensive, but my customer knows when they get it's going to fit them. We also measure every single garment that goes online, so it helps prevent the return rate for us, but also for the buyer. We call it a rotating change room. So we started to implement that then. Fell pregnant with Harvey, Ethan, our third son, and we now had a well-oiled machine. I'd hired a PA. I realized that. And again,
Chaos at home.
it was fucking chaos.
But well-oiled in other areas.
Look, you like things being very tidy at home. You were there every night and I was bringing you money. So you had to pick
We're all
that up.
still alive. You kept us alive by feeding us.
Anyways, so I remember
Melina's the cook in the house, by the way.
I am.
So she keeps us all alive.
But thankfully, you're very hands-on. So
With the dishes.
You're the dish man. So, it's important to point this out because again, I came to you and I said, I want to keep working. And I think I don't regret not having a break after the other boys, But I think that led to my burnout that we're coming up to in the story. And so I had babies and kept working, had babies, kept working. There was no break. And I think like when I look back, I became obsessed with my business. It was a really good distraction for my mental health, got me through that stage of my life. And then I finally was like, fuck, look at me go. I am so good at this. Why would I want to have a break from this? And it made me a better mum because when I was home, I was home. But when I was at work, I was on fire. And so we had Ethan, and I said to you, I need someone to help me with Ethan. I don't want to put him in childcare. And you said again, can the business afford it? Da, 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 da. And I was like, no, not really in my mind. But again, I was like, I need to do this. This is what I need to do. And so I hired at that point Eleni, who 6 years on is still not only my PA, but she's now my operations manager for the business. And she literally was hired just to take Ethan for a walk to the park in my baby Chino, put him to sleep, park him next to me, and then do all my emails. So I delegated 20% of my workload that made me allow me to run my business successfully. Thank God I did, because when COVID hit, I said to Eleni, you need to find a loophole. There has to be a loophole with how we can keep trading. And that was one of her core goals. She worked from home. And it was whenever the government kept sending out the new, the new pushback, can't do this and you can't do that, and not only wear a mask, but blah, 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 and which industries had to close and which ones could stay open. We went from, okay, we're only trading online. So all the staff that weren't dispatched, they were on hold.
Yep.
We didn't make anyone redundant at that point. I got on stories. Literally the day we went into shutdown, I had this pull. I can't explain. It was like a magnet. I was like, I'm going to jump on a live. Do you remember?
Yep.
You just came back from camping. I'd had the boys. I just come back from the peninsula, and I set up a camera in one of our son's rooms with an LED light. And I just was like, guys, this is fucked. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm here for you and I'm going to entertain you while we're in lockdown. And I felt this need to just serve. And so from helping women connect and have something to do and feel seen, I then sourced really, really affordable garments that I could retail that were affordable, but with a high profit. And so we were able to not only operate, but I grew the business 300% over those 2-3 years.
Yeah. Seized an opportunity.
And it was almost too busy. You remember how crazy it was? It was crazy.
Well, people were shopping online, right? That's what people
That's
did.
all they could
That's
do.
what people did in lockdown. They said, we're not on holidays. We've got a little bit of extra money. What can I buy online? What can I scratch that itch?
Yeah, that's the thing.
People get that retail therapy in other ways.
And even if they couldn't afford it, we were offering an affordable garment, but we're also offering them community. And by me going on every day, there was a community. And to be honest, majority.
That's the important one. It was community.
It was community.
Because they're buying dresses that they can't fucking wear. Because they couldn't go to any parties or couldn't go anywhere.
How much fucking knitwear do you need?
But it was all about community. And there was a lot of conversation that I saw in that community.
They loved it. And to be honest, I still get overwhelmed. You're with me when this happens. When ladies stop me in the street and they almost want to cry and hug me and just go, thank you, you got me through COVID.
Yeah.
And that for me was the pivotal point where I went, I'm put on this earth for way more than selling clothes.
For sure.
I've got this ability to storytell and be authentic and help women really transform the way that they see themselves. And I'm not a feminist by all means, but definitely think equality is important, and having that self-belief and changing the stigma that women can't do more than just stay at home and have kids and support the husband.
Well, one of my reasons also for wanting to have you on is as my first guest, but the weekend that just passed was
International Women's Day.
And women in business is going to be a real focus point of the Scottie G Show as well, because there's so many women out there doing amazing things, and I wanted to continue to inspire other women to do the same thing as well.
Well, just like us women get inspired by men, there should be no, I hate that she's inspiring me as a woman. Like, we are at the end of the day beings with opportunity, and it all just comes down to our mindset. What we can and can't do comes down to what we believe in ourselves, and that I call it the bitch in the head, because my community are women, and that bitch is constantly there telling you what you can and can't do. And in my line of business, it's very much, you look fat, you look ugly. A lot of my majority of my core audience are 38 to 55, and that's when perimenopause and menopause kicks in.
Experience body changes. They've had children.
They think they're ugly. Husbands think they're ugly. They don't want to have sex anymore. They start to cover up. They just lose themselves completely, and that's where I kick in.
Yeah.
That's
It's not just about selling clothes.
it's not.
And going back to what you said about, being recognized or being stopped and hugged, I can speak from experience. Going back over a decade ago, people would stop you and say, I saw you on My Kitchen Rules. Can I get a selfie?
That's right.
I loved when you had an argument on there. You're the best. I saw that shift
Yeah.
to you're from Style Me Over.
Yes.
I follow you.
I was more proud about the Style Me Over part.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your content and you're so real and, you're inspiring. That's nice. That's really nice for me to hear because I saw you on TV because you're a good cook.
Nah.
And you got into a couple of good barneys. That's
And being famous, as you know, has never been
that's not right.
never been my goal.
No.
And I get uncomfortable with it because when I'm outside of my work bubble, I'm 100% me. And you've seen me, people come up and I'll be like, sorry? Like I'm confused why they're saying hi because I don't do socials to be famous, which is a lot of what a lot of people do. And now when you look at marketing, the marketing plan and the marketing we know is very different. Okay. Now it's about personal brand. It's about Elon Musk, not so much about Tesla. It's not about Virgin so much. They want to know what Richard Branson's doing. And I've probably tapped into that a long time ago, just being myself and my community is there for our connection. So whatever I find I offer, they're supporting me. And so we're seeing a real shift in marketing across the board that, like what you're doing here, you are more than hospitality will direct, your own personal brand. And people are going to love what you're doing here. They're now going to go to your business page and go, oh, my friend owns a restaurant. I'm going to tell him to go check it out because I listened to him. And that's what I was doing unintentionally without realizing through COVID.
So you built the business up. You got through COVID. You found ways to pivot. We scraped through. We all became teachers.
I literally slept for 2-3 hours a night. I remember I would work. I actually found another loophole where we found a young girl and she came and homeschooled for us at home, and she had a letter that we typed for her that she got pulled over by the police, that she was actually doing that and it wasn't illegal, but we found a loophole so I could run the business. And I made sure that I worked. And again, you said, as long as the business can afford it. So I made sure that happened. But then I'd come home, be mum, and then I'd start working on the business at 8 p.m. and I'd work till like 3, 4 in the morning.
Yep.
Which led to burnout.
So you were running the business now from a larger location. So
I had 4 leases.
Yep.
In 1 block.
Yep. Then you made a decision to completely pull the pin on a part of the business?
You kept saying to me, do you want to keep doing this? Do you really need the shop? We analysed the sales, and the sales were like 15% was the boutique and the rest was online. And I was no longer in the store. So the customers weren't coming in to see me anyway. They were coming in because I drove them there. I was now the ambassador of the brand. And I always had this goal that I wanted everything under the one roof. And you're like, are you sure? And I'm like, yep. So I then found a space in Mentone, which I don't regret still. I know sometimes you'll say to me, like, that wasn't necessary.
It's all part of
as an outsider. But and this is where what I coach on kicks in, is that at the end of the day, when you go to bed by yourself, you're the most important person and no one else hears that inner negative thought. And when you don't be your true self and you don't make the choices from a place of authenticity, those voices are loud because you haven't used your voice, you've compared or whatever. And so for me, I was like, I want to do this. I want to try. If I change the business now, and I was very unhappy at that point. I was burnt out. I was starting to I felt depressed again. I was feeling emotional. My staff were like, are you okay? I was like, I fucking need a break. I'm so exhausted. I still pushed through and got this huge warehouse, and we moved the buying department. We had a photo studio rooms. I was now doing campaigns and being the face of the brand. We had dispatch, and we had a very small area for the store.
But it was your vision.
It was my vision. And
You wanted that large space all under one roof. So you were split over 4 different leases in the same building.
Yeah.
You got obviously walls in between. It's not ideal.
No, it wasn't.
Staircases. You got staff carrying
20
stuff.
staff at this stage.
You got 20 staff. You're like, this is not working. You added up all your rents and said, why don't I go get a bigger place,
Or
similar costs, or maybe a little bit more, and then
exactly.
and look, if you don't have a crack, then
Well, you don't know. So my thing is, this is what going back to your point before about when I've got my mindset on something. My version of failing is not trying or giving up. So I would rather do something and it didn't work than go, wish I had done that. Or halfway through going, oh, this is too hard. Because the thought of what if would haunt me at night.
wise words. Every entrepreneur out there has taken a risk, gone out there and done something that they believed in, whether it was a product that they were passionate about and they started importing it and selling it on
What if it doesn't?
Amazon, or starting a service, or leaving their job. It takes some guts and it takes some grit. There's no doubt about it.
And self-belief, like knowing that no matter what, I've got this. And I think the biggest thing is not caring what anyone thinks, because the next step that happened was, got a bit emotional then. It was hardcore.
Yep.
And when I moved to Mentone, I think it's important that to point out that for me was like having a baby to save the marriage. It was like, sometimes people go, let's have a baby, that will make us more connected. I was like, I'd move everyone under the same warehouse. And it's just like beautiful. Get my mojo back. Because at this point, I had 20 staff and I had 3 kids. And they were doing after school care a lot. I'd pick him up at 6 p.m.
Yep.
and not get to eat until 6:30.
Your partner's running his business.
You're running your
limited hours available also at home.
running around. I now had an operations manager. There was other people in between my staff. And you know what I was doing? I was doing reviewing sales and spreadsheets and HR. And it was not what I'm made for, or what I'm made to do.
Yep.
I lost my creativity, which then meant that I lost my drive, and I just ran out of energy. I started to get an IV drip lady come to give me all these vitamins because I was just like, I'm so exhausted, and I keep running. And then one day, do you remember I woke up in bed and I just was shaking, and I just was like, I think I'm dying. I actually feel so sick, and I had this pain in my kidney. And it was throbbing, and you took me to the doctors, and I was just crying, and I just felt so up and down. And I never forget, I went to, you're like, you decide if you want to do this, is it worth it?
And the business is, 7 figures now. So you're turning over millions. You've got 20 staff. You've just moved to this beautiful location. I say that because it's what you wanted.
Community is like lining up. We're having events. I'm running retreats. We're selling out. Like everything was. And I just remember thinking, just because I should doesn't mean
you were burnt out.
No, just because I can doesn't mean I should.
Yeah.
And I was burnt out. And so turns out that I had adrenal fatigue. You and I did not know this, that above your kidneys, there are glands called adrenal glands. And that is actually what gives the adrenaline to your kidney. So I already was high energy with my blessed ADHD, which I've always used as my superpower to create what I create. But I'd run out of the reserves.
And any stress and cortisol levels, we know all of
that. And I did all these tests, and my hormones were everywhere. That was going to lead potentially to, if I didn't sort it out, a estrogen-related cancer down the track. It was like I had to do something. And I never forget going to my parents' house, and this was the day it all changed. Dad, I was crying, and Dad's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, something needs to change. I said, "Yeah, but I've got so many staff. I feel really bad," because I was more worried about everybody else losing their job than me and my health and my family. And Dad leant over the table, and he's like, "What are you going to do? Fucking wait till you're going to get sick and then you can't fix it?" And I then remember it was May that year, and I went away for Mother's Day. I said to you, I need a break. And I did a retreat. And I remember in that moment just going, this is not aligned. I did my new vision board. I'm like, this is so not aligned with what my why is. I've just become a retailer. I've just become core products, smash it out, sell it. Like I'd stopped doing what I was made to do and what juices me out.
Yep.
And I had to make the really, really, really fucking hard decision to close the business down. I literally ripped the Band-Aid off, made everyone redundant except for my PA, and had to overcome that negative self-talk that I'm a failure. What are people going to say? Are people going to think I'm not doing well? But that's not the truth. I had to like literally park all that shit, that bitch in the head and go, my health is the most important thing. And at that point, we also needed to, you and I were realizing that our boys were learning differently and their behavior was presenting differently. And I had, I out of our relationship, we agreed that I had to take that on because I had more time with the change of the business, to look into that. And so
When
that
time
was
is the
really
important
hard.
one, isn't it?
It was
Being
really
able
hard.
to run a business with time on the important stuff.
Well, what's
And
more important
what's
than your
more
value?
important than your family and
Not everyone's going to agree with that though, because when you look at your values as a person and then your values as a business, family may not, and no one should feel ashamed for that if they don't feel like family's up there. But when you do work on your values, and my 3 top values are family first, spirituality, and freedom. So family is, if I'm not there for them, I wasn't there doing school pickups, I wasn't doing excursions, that made me feel guilty. So mum guilt was real. My spirituality was out the door. I wasn't doing meditating, I wasn't journaling, I wasn't doing yoga, I wasn't doing anything that, fills my cup up. And I certainly didn't have any freedom. I had financial freedom, but I had zero freedom. So when I looked at
you stood back and saw how quickly your
kids.
kids are growing up too.
Yeah,
And they need us when they're young.
it was the hardest thing I've had to do by far, to have to tell people they no longer had a job. I had to go on a live and tell my community I was closing down, and then all the surprise expenses that came up with closing it down so quickly, which,
Cool.
that's still, that took me a long time to get over because I felt like I'd failed. But what I did do was I stepped back and I made sure I nurtured what it is I needed to do for myself and also to be a better mum. We got our kids diagnosed, and that's the whole nother story. But Eleni, as my PA, we set up you and I set up a business, back to basics, set up a new office at home,
Mm.
and I kept selling accessories,
But giving you more time flexibility.
giving me more time. And I literally spent 2 years trying to repivot the business.
But you kept your community open. So you
Kept my
kept
community.
you kept posting on socials.
Yes.
You still had engagement until you sort of could work out what it is that you were
Wasn't really sure what the hell I was doing, but we just kept pivoting. And yeah.
Yep. So then you moved into selling clothes again online, and then
So then I remember I was like, you know what? I know how much I can sell when I do a live. The translation from my community watching what I teach them in a live try on. And just to clarify, live try on is when I get on to Instagram. I have 2 cameras, Facebook and Instagram, and I greet my community. I talk about real women's stuff. At the moment, I'm talking about perimenopause, for example, because that's what's happening in my life. And I've always tried on clothes since COVID, since that night in COVID, which is where I saw that was the niche for our community. And when I stopped, I was like, well, I know that I can sell clothes really well with my community. So I thought this will be easy. I'll go to the competitors. I'll go to all these other fashion brands and say, hey, I'll wear your clothes and I'll sell it to my community. This is my fee. Well, it wasn't that easy. And when I did get booked and I was then busy, I felt like I was whoring myself out. I just felt like I was
you didn't feel genuine.
It was not genuine. I was not authentic. I didn't love the clothes I was trying on. Their returns policies weren't in line with what it wasn't a right fit. I felt dirty. And also the part that really got me was that I wasn't privy to the ROI. I was not privy to the return on investments and the analytics, how many tuned in, what did it convert to? And that did my head in. I don't know if I can say this on the podcast.
Maybe don't then.
Okay, let me put it in a more elegant way, because I know Dad will be watching. I related that phase of the business as Scott's really worried now. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
I'm not sure what
Look
you're
at
going
your
to do.
eyes. I'm trying to think of a really polite way to say this. I felt like I had picked up, done a one night stand and wasn't sure if I'd put out well enough. Because it was like, they didn't, if they didn't call back, it was like, well, or maybe they're busy or they got another girlfriend. Like it felt like I just didn't know where I stood. And I
Yeah.
hate
And it
that
wasn't
feeling.
part, again, what you mentioned before, part of your core values.
It wasn't. So again, it made me reevaluate. I was just making ends meet with Eleni. There was months where I wasn't paying myself, but I made sure I was keeping her employed because I needed her.
Yeah.
And I remember you kept saying, do you need her? I'm like, I do for the next phase. Anyway, it wasn't until I went, I'm not doing these anymore. I'm not doing this. AFL reached out. They needed a stylist. And they paid me ridiculous money to style the AFL captains for the launch. And all of a sudden I was in there styling and I was like, I miss this so much. Didn't like the corporate. That's not something I wanted to go
You
down.
enjoy the creative side.
And I loved it. And then my DMs were like, I wish you would sell clothes again. I haven't bought clothes since you closed. And a cafe near us that we go and get our coffee, I'd sit there and I would just look at this little room next door, the coffee shop. What a waste of space. I could do something with that space. And I'd come home and tell you, and you'd be like, nah, don't even worry about it. It's overhead. Stay at home. You're doing the right thing. And then I'd walk and get a coffee and I'd look and I'd be like, oh. And I had that fire in my belly, like all the other times that I pivoted the business. So I walk into the cafe and I said, what are you doing with that space? She wasn't open to sublease it to me. 6 months later, I go back. The pull was so strong. I said, I'm going to ask again, is that space available next door? Because I'd really love to put a little boutique style studio that I can work from. Anyway, she said yes. And that was a year and a half ago. Yeah, October this will be 2 years that we reopened the retail side of Style Me Over in a very different way. I have 2.5 employees. So two part-timers and a casual. Eleni, my PA, is still a part of that team. She's only part-time because she's now had a baby, so we're very flexible and also very much passionate about not having mum guilt and having staff that know that they've got flexibility because that is a part of my core values. So if, one of the staff want to go watch their kids at school run, they do that. They make up the time because you need that. We've been received with open arms. We're selling out of clothes. Again, I'm doing things very differently, keeping it smaller. I don't design my own collections. I don't indent. Once we sell out, we sell out. We don't do repeats. So we've got that scarcity. And it's giving me time to work on what my core being now is, being more of a life coach and a business coach for those that want to do retail, but more so an empowerment coach to help women really live the life that they want to live and be extraordinary whilst they're being a mum.
And give you the time to do the school pickup and the time that you want to do things. Because it's not all about being big in terms of business. It's about balance. Balance is super hard because that word is thrown around often.
And it doesn't
exist. There's no.
Doesn't exist.
When you're running your own business, you are working all the time. We try not to work in front of our kids, because obviously with our phones, emails, posts, we try not to do that. But the reality is we are working all the time. The brain's always thinking, the kids go to bed, we're getting things done. That's the life of a business.
Can I just say though, there is another B word that's been transformative to my business. I don't believe there's a word. I don't believe balance. The way we visualize like a seesaw, being balanced. Like that's why we're all chasing it because it doesn't fucking exist, right? Boundaries. Boundaries has been transformative for me as a person and a business. You'll be the first one to vouch that I used to have my phone all the time. Remember? I had my phone all the time. I'd be filming it everywhere. I'd be working in the car everywhere. We're in the car. I'd be like at a party and I'd go to the toilet and I'd be on my phone. It was constant. I was a workaholic. And there was a point where I never switched off until, unfortunately, I had to experience the burnout. But with that breakdown came the breakthrough. And I no longer have a phone next to my bed. So it's not even a habit anymore. I broke that habit. I post in the hours I work. When I pick up the kids, I don't know where my phone is. You always hear me ask, where the hell's my phone? Because I don't,
When I call, you don't answer.
well, that's because I'm not, I don't have it attached to me like an appendage, right? I need to role model to our kids now that you don't live on your phone. And now that we've got a teenager whose a phone is everything, it was like, well, if I'm always on my phone, so are they. They're going to be on their devices, and the other two are not on their phones as or devices near as much because they grew up in a different time with me.
Yep.
Um, I don't work all the time. When I switch off, I switch off, and on my brain, so much calmer for it. When I'm on, I'm like 100 miles an hour. My staff could accuse me of almost being a bit standoffish because I'm freaking working. I'm not here to have a conversation. But when I'm home, I'm home. When I'm with my friends, I never had that boundary ever.
Good. So, you touched on before ADHD. All right, and I'm mindful of time. I don't want to go over time here.
We should just sit here and record videos so we can have good D&Ms. I love this. Next time, just get some wine though,
Bit
please.
of quality time.
I know. It's the most we've had last month.
So, you mentioned all 3 boys diagnosed with ADHD.
We got the jackpot, babe.
So I think we did. How does that affect your working and home life? So take me through a day in the life of Melina.
It's just chaotic chaos. It's organized. It's what is it? Organized chaos.
I don't know where the organized part is, but yes,
Oh,
definitely
you. Shut up. No, I know you operate differently to me though. You're more of a left brain. You are super methodical. You do strategies. You pre-organize. Like you are that's how you see organization. I know things over in my head. I don't need pen and paper. That's the superpower of an ADHD brain. It's just, I can see it. I've got folders. I've got tabs in my head. I can see it. I pop it in there. I know what I'm doing. Am I good at folding clothes and tidying clothes around the house and picking up my wardrobe? No, because that shit doesn't bother me. That bothers you, right? Or, but you've never come home and the house has not been under control as far as kids not being at an event, a school excursion, dinner sorted, all that stuff sorted because the things that I'm passionate about. And I think that's something that you and I have done really well is that we've divvied we never sat down and spoke about it, but we've just over our years of communication worked out what our strengths were and what our weaknesses are as people and as a couple. And we've just picked each other's slack up where the weakness parts are.
Yep.
Right? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
So with the ADHD question, what you're asking is that I'm very intuitive and I'm an empath in that I feel people, which is why I'm good at what I do working with women. So when the boys got to the age, particularly our eldest, where I was like, something's off here. And what was off was that, you'll know this, is that when he'd have sugar and certain preservatives, he would turn into like that character from Inside Out that's like that red fire, just crazy. And we couldn't calm him down and we just couldn't work it out. And I was watching and reading things about parenting and I was, obsessed with trying to parent what I thought was a defiant child. It wasn't until COVID hit, which is why it all sort of came to like domino effect, when I was like, whoa, all 3 of them, either not particularly because there's only one, but I was like, one of them's really struggling with learning in a way that I just did not know. The other one is, amazing with structure, but will not sit still and needs to have things prepared constantly. And that's when I was like, we need to get particularly one of them assessed. And that was a really interesting journey for me, particularly because we know you're not ADHD brained. Whereas for me, to fill out the paperwork that we needed to fill out, it was confronting because even you were like, man, I could tick yes for all of this for you. And I was like, oh my God, this is so me.
Really, really good point. There's so many people who have gone to have children assessed for whatever it may be and sat down and filled out the forms and said, that's me.
That's me.
That is so me.
But not in a, oh, that's me way. It went from that's me to, oh my God, it's my fault he's like this.
But you can't take that guilt on. You can't take that guilt on.
It was really like.
But it is hereditary, yes.
Oh, I was waiting for you to be a smart. You've been on your best behavior, actually, I must say.
I'm sure I'm the best.
that was confronting because I was like, oh my God, he's like this because of me. It's my gene. Because what we're
You're
now,
feeling like there was something wrong though, because there's nothing wrong.
well, at that point, we didn't know what we know. This is now 4 years ago, right?
Mm.
When we
And we've
started.
learnt a lot.
We've learnt so much now, so much. And when I meet mums and dads that are at the start of their neurodiverse journey, whether it's whatever it is, whether they're autistic,
ADHD, autism,
there's
there's
so many awareness of brain types now. It is really confronting. And I suppose what I am now, and this is what I'll be talking about in my podcast, and I talk about in my virtual circle I'm about to launch with my business, which is a circle of women anywhere in the world where you can zoom in and we talk about these sort of topics from my experience.
community again.
Is again a community, is that I really suffered in silence because I thought it was my fault. And I thought that everyone was going to know it was because of me, because I've always been known as a high energy, misunderstood, crass, smart ass, cheeky babe. But no one, the one people that never, and still don't know me, will take it the wrong way.
Yeah.
And I was then going, oh my God, he's going to suffer the same thing that I did. And so I didn't have anyone to talk to until I came across Krongold, which was through Monash University, and they're provisional psychologists that offer a diagnosis through 5 different sessions. And that was game changing for us because it was finally a place where we were like, oh, okay, no, he does have ADHD, which I say that now like, ugh, but it was, you and I were like, oh, what is that?
Well, as hearing information for the first time, we don't know. Well, what does that mean? Well, how does that affect his learning? And does he need to be medicated? And we didn't know anything about it.
And I don't want to medicate him, all that. And you and I had so
We've
many
learned
conversations
so
about
much
that.
about it. Yep.
And you were going to work.
There'd be a lot of people listening to this all going through the same thing or have been through the exact same
Or
thing.
know someone.
Yeah.
And you were floating the house. You're the one that was going to work, covering the expenses now at this point, because now my business has changed and I'm not earning nowhere near the money I was because of the choice that I had to make and I wanted to make.
Yep.
And I was doing all this research, and one of the things that was really, really profound was the fact that the school system was so inexperienced with this. And so at that point I didn't know you needed to have get a pediatrician. Yeah, but a pediatrician takes 12 months to get.
Mm.
So it was like, oh my God. So by the time we got to the second and third son, I said to you, oh, just book the pediatrician appointment. By the time we get them assessed,
Yeah.
it'll be the appointment. And that is what I tell people now.
And mental health practitioners and psychologists during and after COVID
And still now.
was just a huge backlog. Yeah.
Still now.
And look, I won't even get into the effects of COVID on young kids and adults as well. But the psychological effects.
Absolutely. So, that has been a journey for you and I, more so me because I've taken that on and I had the time, and I'm also really passionate about it because I am a women's mental health advocate. And also I've always said as a joke that I'm undiagnosed ADHD, always. And I know myself when I have sugar, when I have like apple juice, it's like I've had some illegal drug. I'm just giggling and ridiculous. So we had to change the way, you and I, the way we went out and, having to be that person that says, oh, no sugar, please. Educating them.
But also explain to them that there was nothing wrong with them, that their brains
That's been the hardest.
Yeah, their brains learn differently, especially with our middle, who's also dyslexic. So, your brain learns differently, and it just means
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
So that really has been my full-time job, if I'm going to be honest. That's where my full focus has been the last 2-3 years, is making sure that our boys feel understood. And that's the hard part, because when they're labelled, they don't think that. They think something's wrong with them.
Yeah.
Communicating with the schools, exploring medication, you and I having to learn how to parent differently.
Yeah.
Managing my own ADHD. So through getting the first 2 diagnosed, they're like, I think you should do the test. I'm like, sure. And now I'm on Ritalin every day, and it's been a game changer for me.
Yep.
I'm the most focused I've ever been.
Yep.
And now in the new phase of my business, in growing more of a digital business with my YouTube channel and the podcast, and again, making a difference in community, I need to stay focused.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen a difference with me on my
Yeah,
meditation.
absolutely. And look, we're not here talking about being advocates for
Medication. No,
I mean that
that's
is
my experience.
yeah, that is absolutely, and that's what this pod's about. It's just sharing
I've
experiences
tried the
and
natural thing.
stories.
That's my experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And we made the decision, with a lot of hesitation, but we realized the improvement that it was going to have for their life. So we made a choice
Yeah.
as a family, and we have managed
Yes.
how we do that. And you've made a decision for your own clarity, and
Absolutely.
you're enabled to run the business and keep your own mental sanity. So yeah, absolutely, every family needs to go through their own process. But like everything, education is key.
And that's the only reason why
Hear everything out before you make a call. You know, uh, crypto. I don't buy crypto. It's a waste of money. No, educate yourself, then make a decision whether investing in crypto is something that you want to do or not. So find out from all the doctors, what are the side effects?
yes.
What will the potential improvements be? Obviously, there's a lot of data out there. They throw the medication around like lollies. We know that.
Trial and error, as you and
but-
I know, though.
Yeah, what are the potential side effects? What are the potential improvements? Appetite. We've seen changes of our kids with appetite. So there are
Having
things that everyone.
strategies, and we could talk about ADHD and a whole nother episode.
That's a whole.
That
that's
is,
a whole-
it really is.
So going back to Style Me Over.
Yes.
So, and I'll give you an opportunity to plug your own pod here, because the Empower Room.
The Empower.
So tell me now a little bit about what the future holds for Style Me Over, the Empower Room, what sort of community, how the business will continue to evolve.
So at the moment, I'm at another pivot point.
Never changes. It never stops.
Well, it never does.
Always
One
changes.
thing I've learned about business is that, a business plan. I'll tell you something. I've never done a business plan. I've never written a business. Do you gonna laugh and go, yeah, I know. No, look, I'll be honest. I'm not great with the financials.
You don't wing it. No, you
I'm
don't look like
queen of winging it.
you are.
But I believe in
queen of
myself.
wing.
I believe in it's proven itself time and time again. So I've never written a business plan because
We're nothing more powerful than self-belief, right?
well, it's the only thing that's going to get you through any hardship in your life, which is mental health.
And when things don't go right, pulling the sleeves up and just getting it done.
And I say, what do I have to learn from this? And then just don't fuck it up again next time. So
Yeah, learning from mistakes.
learning it.
We'll
I
be
don't
improving.
have a business plan because I get bored.
Well, you've got a business plan in your head.
I do.
You're not good at recording.
However, what I was going to say is, however, I know that this phase, that there is a big part of my community that love the way I style clothes and buy. So I would love to franchise Style Me Over Retail and be the ambassador for the brand, but not necessarily not have the leases nor run the shop. Literally drive traffic back to those stores because
When
there
you
is
say leases, you mean the bricks and mortar side
Yeah,
of the
there's-
business?
yeah.
Yep.
So that's one side of it because there's definitely a niche for that. Whilst, yes, there are the likes of Temu and Shein, and you've got the people like Kmart that, just smashing out affordable clothes. Nothing beats something that fits well, that is good quality, and not every Tom, Dick and Harry's got it on. And it comes from a base of love and body shape and color suiting,
Yep.
not what's on trend, because
Yep.
I'm not a trend follower. So that. So that is in the stages of happening at the moment. But where I'm going, where the business is going, is more so into my personal brand, which is Melina Bagnato. I don't know why I started then
Because you realize that you're not using
I know.
you're not using Giannuzzi. You've decided to use your maiden name, which is fine. It's no
Exactly why I
I'm
started.
not going to use this open forum to discuss
No,
that.
no, I am legally Giannuzzi, but because my dad is a menswear designer, and I, for a long time of my fashion career, had Bagnato as my surname, I was like, I shouldn't change it with the connection that I had. But I love that is that's my private surname. So that's why I did start it. And you're right. You know me so well. All right. So yeah, so I'm leaning more into my personal brand, which is Melina Bagnato, and that there is going to be the hub of what I offer. So from my Melina Bagnato brand, I'm ambassador for Style Me Over. I do the styling over there. We're about to launch the Empower Room virtual women's circle that ladies can connect every week with topics that I discuss in full detail. Nothing is too raw, but it is not recorded, so it's a private space. The Empower Room podcast, which is just another way for my community to connect with me. And then there's also the YouTube channel that is in the works.
Yep.
And that is more just womanhood topics in general. Because I do love cooking. I know a lot of ladies love to cook. They don't know how to cook. And I cook really great, quick, gluten-free, fructose-free meals. Like giving them a full experience. And honestly, I always say this to you, just running a business being myself.
Yep.
Because that's the only way I want to make money.
And what's more important about than enjoying your life?
Yeah.
Sure, you make an income out of it as well and run that business to help run the family. Absolutely. But what's more important than enjoying it? Having the time for your children, if that's one of your goals in life.
Well, and myself.
Yeah.
Because I realized I was a workaholic. I've spent the last 3 years obsessed with helping the boys, and then I lost myself.
Yep.
So I'm really excited about not so much the balance, but the boundaries of Friday's my day off. Monday to Thursday, I smash it out. After school sports, I do the pickups, do the drop offs. You and I have got our time on the weekend, and everything's compartmentalized as boundaries, as opposed to trying to whatever this balance was that I was trying to find. And honestly, I'm so excited about helping other businesses.
Yep.
I love talking about all the mistakes I've made, helping other women make sure they don't do that too.
Right. Look, there's going to be tons of people that are going to listen to this and be on their own journey, thinking about starting a business or have already started a business. And I hope that you've been able to be inspiring to them. And I love the fact that you're able to come on to my show. It's a proud moment for me because you're my first show. You're my first guest on my very, very first show. And nobody will ever be the first guest.
I mean,
apart
number
from me.
one.
So I hope everybody enjoyed it and was able to learn. And that's the whole idea behind this pod, is to bring people on, share stories,
Inspire them.
inspire, learn. I'm going to be so I'm in the property development industry as well. So, diversification. I'll be bringing on people talking about construction and developing. And there's a lot of people out there that are trying to put land deals together to become developers and don't know how to do it. I'll be talking about that. We've got restaurateurs out there that are finding it difficult to find staff and all the challenges of increased overheads in their businesses.
Keeping good staff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
work
we're
culture.
going to be talking about so much cool stuff, and hence the reason why I gave it the name that I did, because it's going to talk about a myriad of different things. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Babe, I'm so proud of you. I really am. I'm really, really. I feel like this is where you need to be.
Yeah, and I'm excited about the Empower Room podcast. And no pressure, but if you're looking for a first guest for the Empower Room,
Got my list of questions ready.
I'm available. Okay, happy to come on.
Don't worry, my community are gagging to hear from you. They've already sent me all their questions.
Well, I don't speak much on socials or any of your socials, so probably no one's even heard me speak.
I think that's why they've got lots of questions.
But look, I know you're very shy and you don't like to talk, so thanks for coming on.
Oh, here we go, smart ass gift him. Yeah, no, thank you.
Thank you again.
And proud of you, well done, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening. The first of many pods that are the Scottie G Show. So looking forward to having many different guests on, coming and talking about all different things, whether it be business, family, health, financial, all sorts of stuff. You're going to find it very, very interesting, and can't wait to talk to you again soon. Thanks again.
Thank you. Well done.
You did well. Hi, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed that episode of the Scottie G Show. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Without your support, we can't keep getting new and exciting guests onto the pod. Please click on the link if you'd like to see more.